So you figured out what your dominant elements are and your lacking elements are. Now, how do you use that information? Well, have no fear. Marisa is here. Hola, my beautiful lotus flowers. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're into nerding out on everything astrology, spirituality, and self-transformation, this is a community for you. Last week, I released a video that gave you an updated tutorial on how to find your dominant element in your birth chart and also let you know what traits and what skill sets you might struggle with or excel in depending on what your dominant and lacking elements were in your chart. Using elements is an often overlooked and key way to figure out how you can enhance your experience in life, from career, from mental health to physical health. The elements tell us a lot about what we need to reignite in order to be our best selves. So in today's video, I'm gonna latch on to last week's video by giving you more specific advice. I'm gonna go element by element, fire, earth, water, and air, and talk about some activity suggestions that I think you should pick up if you're lacking in each element. We're going to start off with suggestions for somebody who lacks in the fire element. As mentioned in the previous video, if you're someone who lacks the fire element, you may struggle with energetic and outgoing activities. People who are dominant in the fire element may naturally want to lead others, have fun, and just be super outgoing and active all the time. So if you found that you have little to no fire element in your chart, then these are a couple things that I suggest you do. First, I suggest picking up some sort of active hobby that you do enjoy. A lot of us dread doing certain things, or we dread active activities because it's like, oh, I just don't want to be active. I don't want to work out. I'm not an intense person, and that's okay. Find something active that you enjoy. Something like hiking, dancing, I don't know, some rollerblading, ice skating, I don't know. Find some type of active hobby, and there are millions of them. You can probably even Google active hobbies to do and find something, and this can reignite the more physical, energetic aspect that you lack in. It's not that you're incapable of being the way that someone dominant in fire is, but what it means is that that's something that you need to work on, and by doing so, you will feel more confident, even if you don't want to do it at first. My second suggestion is becoming part of some sort of social, creative class, such as a theater group or like a public speaking group. It's just important that whatever it is, it's something that focuses on being active, being a bit more outgoing, and definitely incorporating socializing into your routine. And you never know, you may actually have fun, you know? Next, we're talking about suggestions for somebody who lacks in the earth element in their chart. As mentioned in the previous video, if you lack in the earth element, you may struggle with more physical, grounded activities that have to do with material building and material success, things such as planning, finances, being reliable, staying focused on the task at hand, things such as that. If you lack in the earth element, these are the following suggestions I have for you. First is to identify which earthly activity you struggle with. So if you heard me say finances and you went,
oh yeah, I'm like really bad with finances,
and there you go. That's what you need to focus on. My suggestion, if you know that you're bad with money and can't seem to hold on to it, then make an active effort to work on your budgeting plan. Depending on what element you are dominant in, then your budgeting plan that works for you may look different. For someone dominant in the water element who's quite creative and whatnot, they might really enjoy a bullet journal where they can draw whatever they want and make their planner look pretty and, you know, have a pretty budget plan. But if it's an air element, then they really love technology. They might want to download some type of budget tracker. You catch my drift? However it is that you feel comfortable creating a budget plan and working on your finances, just do that. But this is going to really help reignite the energy of the earth element in your chart. Lastly, if you struggle with maintaining focus and keeping yourself grounded, pick up a daily activity that will help exercise this ability. Again, this is going to look different for everybody depending on what your dominant element is. But here are some of my suggestions of things that you can do if you struggle to stay grounded and stay focused. If you're someone whose mind just tends to wander a lot when you're trying to do work, and then you get bored and you get off task and then you just end up falling into old habits, then try practicing breath work. Breath work is really good at returning us to our center and regaining our mental clarity. So if you find your mind wandering a lot when you're doing whatever productivity you're doing, then just notice that and take a moment to return to your breath. And there's a lot of different types of breath work out there, so I'll leave that to you to Google, but it definitely does help clear all of that chaos that can go on in our heads sometimes. Or maybe it's not your mind that's a problem, maybe it's because you're just a physically active person. You just want to be up and doing things and you can't stand to stay focused on one thing in one spot. I would suggest doing something like setting a timer. Maybe every 30 minutes to an hour, you get up, do some jumping jacks, do some squats, go for a 5-minute walk, something that gets your blood moving and helps give you a brief mental break. Before we continue, leave a quick comment below telling me which element you're dominant in and which element you're lacking in. I definitely want to know if you know that information, and be sure that you're hitting the like button for me and the subscribe button as well as the bell. Thank you. Now let's talk about suggestions for somebody who lacks in the water element in their chart. If you lack in the water element, you may find that you struggle with compassion, empathy, and just tend to be out of touch with your creative passions and more of your spiritual side. My first suggestion to you would be to pick up a creative hobby of some sort to get you back in touch with your artistic nature as a human. And you may think, oh my gosh, I'm not an artist, I don't want to draw or whatever, but just take a moment to look at everything around you. Everything you own has at one point been a creative vision inside of a human's brain that came into reality, into the physical realm, so we can use it. Everything is a piece of art and a piece of creation in that way. So don't tell me you can't be creative, because you can. Every human has it in their nature. It's just whether you tend to lack in it or excel at it naturally. So it's not about being the best creator, the best artist, but it is really fulfilling for our mental health to have a creative hobby that we do on the side. At least maybe once a week, set aside some time to draw or paint or knit, whatever it is that you enjoy. Find a creative hobby that you enjoy doing and take some time to do it either daily, weekly, whenever you have the time to. My second suggestion, if you lack in water, is to find some sort of spiritual practice that brings you greater mental clarity by being more in touch with your emotions and spiritual self. Obviously, we all have emotions that we deal with. It's just that some people are more inclined to suppress them or ignore them, while others tend to wear their emotions for everyone to see. Either way, our emotions are something that if we don't have a regular way to deal with them, work through them, and acknowledge them, then there's something that can damage us badly in the long term. Some examples of some exercises you can pick up in order to help work through your suppressed emotions or things that you might struggle with mentally are journaling and meditation. Both practices really allow us to sit with those emotions that we feel that we may ignore or whatever it is, and really help us sort through them and work through them so they can be released. Because otherwise, if you never have a practice in place that helps you work through our feelings, then you're gonna end up being a ticking time bomb somewhere down the line because you didn't take care of this part of yourself. Last but not least, let's talk about suggestions for somebody who lacks in the air element. Now, if you lack in the air element, like I mentioned in the previous video, you may struggle with some form of communication and thinking logically and objectively. My first suggestion is you should ensure that you are regularly challenging your mind through analytical activities and or education. Pick up some books in an educational topic that you find interesting and put aside at least 30 minutes every day or every other day to read through that book and really nourish your brain, nourish your analytical skills, your learning skills. It's really important that we do that on a regular basis. If you're not into reading, there's tons of online classes and online education and YouTube videos where you can learn new things and take in new information. It's important to remember that our brain is a muscle and we must work on it every day, or else there's a lot of really bad long-term and even short-term side effects of not using it. And this is where the air element excels. Be sure you're incorporating some of these types of practices so you're challenging yourself mentally every day. My second suggestion is to make an effort to engage in some form of social time if you tend to shy away from it, or take a communication class. That social time could be you hanging out with people you enjoy on a regular basis, maybe every week, every other week, just making sure that you're getting some of that social time and practicing your social skill set, because if you don't, over time, you only become more and more introverted and you start losing that social muscle that is very necessary. I'm not saying that you need to know how to socialize. I'm saying that the more that you're alone, the more you're going to start to feel lonely at some point in time. You may think it's okay now, but at some point it's going to hit you. So make time for social time, and this can even be taking some form of a communication class, like maybe a public speaking class or something along those lines, to help you know how to articulate your words better and really figure out how to communicate with others better, which is also something that the air element excels in. Be sure to hop over to the LaBlue Lotus Facebook community if you haven't already, where we talk even more about astrology, spirituality, and using those for self-transformation. And be sure that you're hitting the like button and the subscribe button with the bell if you didn't earlier. Leave a comment down below and let me know what element you're dominant or lacking in if you didn't earlier in the video, and hop over to my Instagram at Marisa LaBlue as well. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Adios.